like a scene from Mad Max sometimes.
It's not going to stop until someone gets killed.
Problem in parts of Dublin, posing a risk to life and limb of residents, visitors and the joyriders themselves. The North Inner City is one of the hotspots, and last week Primetime filmed covertly at the busy junction of Gardner Street and Summerhill, just 300 metres from O'Connell Street. We saw countless traffic offences, including dangerous driving. It wasn't long before our cameras picked up a motorcycle carrying a pillion passenger with no helmet, breaking a red light and driving through the junction before heading down Parnell Street. Minutes later, an electric motorbike, this time on the footpath. No reg plate, no helmet, and we film our first wheelie. Soon he comes back on the wrong side of the road, through a red light, just as a woman crosses pushing a pram. He makes an illegal right turn and another wheelie. He returns with the pillion passenger, neither with a helmet, driving on the footpath between pedestrians. He comes back alone and another wheelie. And again, a wheelie down Summerhill and up Summerhill, and down Summerhill, up Summerhill. Then, driving on the wrong side of the street, breaks a light and another wheelie. Again, a wheelie down the footpath before driving the wrong way up a cycle lane, and yet another wheelie. From lunchtime until mid-afternoon, the motorcyclist turned Summerhill and Gardner Street into his own rally patch. The junction is less than 10 minutes walk from 3 Garda stations, but we saw no Garda intervention. While the problem is not new and can also be seen in other areas, locals say it's gotten much worse in the last few years.
It's something that is fairly common. There's one there now. That could happen 5 times today, it could happen 10 times today, you know.
It did hit something, a car. The motorbike went on fire, damaging 2 parked vehicles. The motorcyclist was injured, but left the scene before Gardaí arrived. The accident happened just 20 metres from the entrance to the local national school, City Council.
Towards the end of August, for 35 minutes straight, there was 2 scramblers racing each other up Shamrock Street. There's a local school there, albeit it was Saturday. There's a local swimming pool. There's a community event there.
Connected to a surge in motorcycle theft, like this one last week from a house in South Dublin. Motorcycle theft is mainly a Dublin problem. 4 out of every 5 stolen motorbikes nationwide are taken in the capital.
People, you know, when they're coming into me, some of these people, it's a tool for a job. They needed to get to work, and somebody's depriving them of their livelihood. Other people, it's a hobby, it's their pride and joy, and somebody's had to take it away from them.
An Garda Síochána did not accept an invitation for interview, but they have had some successes.
They were on more than 20 searches last week. They made some significant fines. So they have seized a lot of motorcycles and e-scooters, and there was drugs and cash involved as well.
But once the joyriders are on the motorbikes, it seems they are virtually beyond the reach of the law because, unlike in England and Wales, where in certain circumstances police will intercept moving motorcycles, Gardaí will not.
It never ends well. When you're taking somebody off a motorcycle that may be a child, maybe 17 years old, and in order for the guards to take action in terms of stopping them or hard stops, they're just not available to the police.
Sometimes taunt them directly. So what can be done?
What do you think the fix is? Is it more policing? I mean, what is it?
I think there's 2 elements to it, Miriam. The first element is short term. I just don't accept that young boys, and they're mainly young men, can act recklessly in built-up areas in many parts of the cities, but in particular in the inner city where there's quite a lot of people. By its very nature, it attracts a lot of people. It's lawlessness and it's totally reckless what they're doing, and there's no personal accountability. So I don't accept that those young men can do that indefinitely almost, totally without any consequences. And the first step in learning learning and changing behaviour is personal accountability. And there seems to be no personal accountability. So if the law needs to be changed, well, then the law needs to be changed. I'm not certain either, Paula, that it's about youth services, because there's a small, significant cohort of young men in many parts of Ireland, as well as in inner city Dublin, who just are not connected to anything and don't want to be connected to anything. Their attitude is, we're above that and we're not interested, whether that's youth work or sport or work or whatever it is. And they seem to be getting their kicks out of that. But what they're not, be conscious of is the damage they're doing psychologically and indeed physically to people. People are terrified. I see them myself as it on one wheel. If you're walking down the footpath, you're terrified, because if they lose control, they're likely to end up at the footpath.
So, John, is it a policing solution?
Well,
then?
90% of it is policing initially, because I totally agree with Paul on the long term. We've got to look at the long term as well as the short term. But short term, you need to bring it home to people. And I'm afraid the law is the only way that that can be done through, is that these young people have to be shown and they have to experience personal accountability. If you do something reckless, well, you're going to pay a price.
And yet, just before I bring Paul in, you have said to me down the years, though, putting young guys away is almost the worst thing you can do for them. So if that inevitably is where you're sending these young men, is that a good idea, John?
I would never be advocating that prison is the solution. It's not the full solution. But as an interim, short-term solution, it is. Because what it does is, it does two things. It stops them doing it. At the moment, they seem to have a free licence. They know that. So if they know that, it's like if they can break into houses and they know that no matter what happens, there'll be no repercussion. Well, then they'll break into every premises in the city.
I mean, what?
For personal responsibility and accountability does not necessarily mean that it's inevitable that they end up in prison.
Yeah.
Well, they most certainly need to be confronted by the guards, first of all, on the street. Secondly, they need to be brought to court, and the court can then monitor. And if they continue to misbehave and to ignore the court, I mean, the Children Act of 2001 is a very progressive piece of legislation, and it does its very best not to give young people criminal convictions. But you do need the young people themselves to take some of that responsibility as well. Putting all the blame on society, putting all the blame on other services, putting all the blame on everybody else except the individual young people themselves doesn't work either. So the time has come, I think, where personal responsibility must be part of the solution.
So are you being critical of the guards?
I'm critical of the law. I think the guards have a very serious point. And we know as well as society, and we know with the media, if some accident happens, as some of your on the clip mentioned, and there a fatality or a serious injury, the guards will be blamed. They'll probably get into disciplinary problems. They'll probably be disciplined within the force itself. So the law needs to change. In extreme circumstances, like what we saw on the clip there, where it's just not acceptable that the ordinary citizens are put at risk like that.